Welcome to the Wander Mode podcast, where we celebrate the fearless spirit of women embracing life's wanderings. Where every story is a spark of inspiration and reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we simply embrace wherever the journey may lead. In today's episode, I am excited to welcome Vanessa Riffel, a powerhouse of entrepreneurship and a true master of juggling multiple roles. Vanessa is the owner of a Nautical Bowls franchise in Minnesota, a mattress flipping expert. Yes, you heard me correctly, mattress flipping expert, and a full-time insurance professional, all while being a dedicated mom. She has built a career on her ability to manage several businesses while balancing motherhood, and today she's here to share her journey, her insights on running a franchise, and what it takes to succeed as a serial entrepreneur. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story.
Yeah, I'm super excited to bring it. It's kind of a story that was brought about from adopting our son in 2020. So I think that's really what propelled us into all these different businesses that we currently own.
Because you're in a little bit of everything. So hosting an Airbnb,
Mhm.
flipping mattresses, which I think some people are going to be like, what does that mean?
I
And
know.
then now owning a Nautical Bowls franchise. So take me back to 2020. What exactly happened around the time of adopting your son that led to this new entrepreneurial lifestyle?
Yeah, so it actually started back in 2018. I've always felt called to adopt, but I kind of felt I should just get going in 2018. But of course, with adoption comes the financial piece of it, right? So just super expensive. International adoptions now cost anywhere from like $40,000 to $60,000. And I knew in our current positions, my husband was a nurse, an LPN, and I think I was at Target at the time, but not in a very high role. So I wasn't making much money. So we needed a side hustle on top of what we were doing to really pay for this. So I started going on Facebook and looking at side hustle sites. And so it was actually a Dave Ramsey post from a girl out west, and she had a truck full of mattresses. And I thought, this is so weird. But at that time, I told my husband, I was like, because I'm not a person that's going to physically go pick up mattresses. She kind of gave a gist of it. And so I told my husband, Jeremy, I was like, let's call and ask her. I wrote her on Facebook and got the number of the guy I was supposed to call. This company was just starting. So my husband called and he was like, I don't know about this. But I was like, is there any risk? Like, do we have to pay any money? And he's like, no, all we have to do is pick them up. And then when we sell them, we pay the money that we owe. So each model we owe a certain amount on, depending on the brand and the type of mattress. So I was like, well, let's just try it. So that was in December of 2018. And 2019, the company only had 3 brands. So we were making good money, but they basically own most of the mattress space and into furniture. So 2019 was a good growth year. And then I was also at the time working at a STEM company, and they were out of London. I started in July. Long story short, I was laid off by Christmas because our product didn't do well during Christmas time. And so we all know what happened in spring of 2020. So when I lost my job, I couldn't find a job because of COVID. Then I turned to mattresses. And at that same time, they started doing shipments. And so if you were selling a certain amount a month, you could qualify for a shipment. So I was literally running back and forth from my storage unit like every day. I was posting like crazy because, hey, I had to pay for bills. Plus, I had to pay for this adoption, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like our miracle. Mattresses are our miracle, and they help pay for our child. And really, we didn't go into debt this whole entire time. We just put all our effort into mattresses. And then during 2020 was also the time my husband went for his RN. So, we were kind of just all over the place, but we had to survive. We wanted to make it through.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of 2020, we, went to Korea. We lived there for 2 months and brought our son home. So after we brought him home, we were pretty spent after that
Yeah.
because during 2020, you had to actually live there. So we had to live there. We had to quarantine for 2 weeks. Korea is an amazing country, but just because of what was going on in the world at the time, it was just like stressful. We didn't bring our kids with because it was better for them to stay in school. And we would have had to pay for all these things, right? Quarantine was $3,000 for just us. So adding our children, it would have been like 6 grand for 2 weeks because they feed you in your room. You're just stuck in your room. So financially, it just wasn't there. When you build up that client base, like referrals, we worked so hard that 2020 year. And honestly, I thought when COVID happened, I thought our mattress business is done. Like nobody's going to want a used mattress. And these are trial returns. So they're under 100 days used. They're basically brand new. But I think COVID made me worried about this
Mm.
industry, but actually it propelled it because everything was closed. Factories weren't producing anything and shops were closed. If somebody needed something, they were going on Marketplace and they were finding it. So in 2020, when we came back from Korea, I was like, we need to get a warehouse. We need to expand this. I was sick of going to storage units every day. We built a shed next to our house just to show mattresses. But of course, space is such a problem, right? And if people want to try 2 to 3 mattresses, it was not efficient, especially for our family and having 3 littles.
Mhm.
So we went and started renting a space just about 5 minutes from our house. And that like opened up everything because now we're basically, even though I'm not supposed to be for my contract, I'm not supposed to be a store, but now I have a facility where people can actually come and try out mattresses and they can try out, various brands. I never thought I would be as entrepreneurial as I am now. But looking back, when Jeremy and I were in college and when he finished his nursing degree, we talked about, he was in the group home circuit and we've talked about me opening up our own group home. We've
Mm.
researched all of that, but there's just so much legality stuff in it that I really never took the time to really dig deep. But I think the mattress thing like inspired me in ways that I didn't think, like, Vanessa, you can do this, like you can do all this. And like, what do you have to lose? Like, just work hard. And, the goal, of course, is to be financially sound so we can do great things and like, do fun things in life, right?
Yeah.
And not be bound to our day to day. And so, like, these are our younger years where we are young and we can do this, right?
Mm.
I'm kind of the one that's pushing us. And he's just like, he's on board, of course, but he's like, just tell me what to do. Cause I'm kind of the planner and I plan everything in the background. So when we came back from Korea, we got the warehouse and then it was like, well, what are we going to save for next? And then that was the thought of, I always wanted an Airbnb.
Mm.
My husband always wanted a cabin, but of course, this time in our life, we can't just afford a cabin. It needs to be rented out. And we have young kids. So like we always have stuff going on in the cities. So it's really like the idea of actually going to a cabin every weekend in the summer is not going to happen.
Mhm.
It needs to make money. So our cabin's in Bemidji. We picked Bemidji because there's things are going on year round. I think if you want a lake home, you're going to have to be near something, near a hospital, near a college, right?
Mhm.
Where there's constantly activity. So I went up there. I didn't really pick Bemidji until I went up to my godmother's funeral because I was up there in the summer and
Oh.
we couldn't find a place to stay. There was only 2 hotels and I paid over $300 for our hotel room for 2 nights. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So that kind of made me start thinking like, hey, this is a good spot. And then of course, during the winter, even though right now I don't have a lot of time, I want to take your course. Like we are not full as much as we could be just because I don't have the time to like put into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But of course, ice fishing and then all the stuff that's going on campus, the Sanford Center, they have, their hockey center that they have concert, they have shows up there. There's so much going on that
Mhm.
I know we can fill it more. So that's why we chose Bemidji. And so we've been doing that. This is our 3rd summer and we've been full every summer into fall,
Yeah.
scattered through the winter. It's hard when it gets so cold and so much snow up there. I don't even really want to deal with it because then you're dealing with, high heating costs and snowplow, right?
Mhm.
And that really
Mhm.
cuts into
Oh,
what
yeah. It's so much money.
it is. You kind of might as well just shut it down for a few months. And that's kind of what we've been doing the last few years. After that was done, my brain is always thinking, like, okay, what's next? And my husband's like, stop.
Please.
Stop. What's
Please.
next? Yeah. So, like, I'm just a saver. I'm a born saver. And so I don't buy anything for myself ever just because I'm just not that kind of person. So I just
Yep.
kind of keep saving. And so I spent so much money at Nautical Bowls 2 summers ago. I would go every day and I would go to multiple locations because I was so embarrassed because I was going there so many times. And they have a thing in their store about opening a franchise. And I thought, "Ah, I wonder." And I looked it up and like the finances, like we had it, I could figure it out. And I, of course, went home to Germany. He's like, what do you have now? So this is the thing with New Hope. Maple Grove gets all the business, Plymouth gets all the business, and like New Hope, Golden Valley, Crystal area, Robbinsdale, nobody touches us. And I don't know what they think of this area, but in my mind, I think there's a lot of successful young families, healthy, people that want to live a healthy lifestyle, but it's a dead zone and there's nothing here. And we have the Y, we have Lifetime, we have the rink, we have the gymnastics facility, like literally within less than a mile from each other.
Oh, wow.
And Lifetime and the New Hope Mall had that GNC that was there and it went out of business in 2020 and it's been empty. And I was like, if there's one spot, Jeremy, that we're going to, I want to put it right there. And he's like, well, if we're not getting it there, we're not. I was like, I know. So I was like, that's just kind of what I put my focus on. I prayed about it. I was like, God, if you want us to be there, like just open the doors, And honestly, too, like, I don't even know like if I should be doing this because I mean, like we have our hands tied to all these different things, but again, risk. Like at the end of the day, what is there to lose? Honestly, really, if I have my family, I have everything. And
Yeah.
I always kind of keep saying that. So it's, well, let's just try to push this door down. And God, if you don't want me to do it, just don't let me push it down. Just
Put
keep it up.
someone else in that space real quick because otherwise I'm
Right.
taking it.
Yeah, exactly. So we, put our franchise fee in. We picked Nautical Bowls because at least has a pretty good brand presence that people are looking for us. And we love the product. So we talked to them and we decided to go for it. And we got a realtor and she put an inquiry on the space that we wanted. And we found out that Brahm, the CEO of Lifetime, actually owns that mall. And at first he was kind of resistant to it because it's a Lifetime that doesn't have a Lifetime cafe. So that's why it's a big deal because they have nothing. And so I think he was first resistant to it because he's not used to having a business like a health food business smack dab, like literally almost in his gym, right? So the owners are Brian and Rachel of Nautical Bowls, but then Peter Taunton, he was the owner of, I think it was Snap Fitness. And so he's now the primary owner of Nautical Bowls. So he's kind of in a partnership with them. But being a health gym guy, he knows Brahm. And so he talked to Brahm and Brahm got really excited about it. And I think he changed his mind. And I think we are benefiting his members, right? At the end of the day. And we found out that that spot has been open because he just didn't like any of the restaurants that were trying to get in there. So like Chipotle, Starbucks, Caribou, they've all been vying for that space. Yeah. For, since GNC left, but he felt like none of those would benefit his members and also worried about parking, too much volume with cars and stuff. So he agreed to it. And so that kind of just started that ball and that started rolling. So I'm trying to think of my years here. So 2022 is when we signed, 2023 is when we started build out and we opened last August.
Okay.
So we've learned a lot. It's been a lot harder than I thought. I mean, the economy isn't as great as what maybe the media wants you to think it is, but then you have to start being creative and we're doing everything. Like we're going to be fine. We're in a great spot. We have visibility, but we just need to get out there. People aren't spending like they used to. Even a year ago, they're not spending. So it's being creative, like getting into schools, doing events. That piece of it, I wasn't prepared to do all that work, but I know the work that we put in the next couple of years should set us up for being able to take a break and hopefully make money so I can spend more time with my family, right? It's been a lot, but I love it. And I know that we're supposed to be where we're at and we just got to keep working hard, being smart with our money. I think a lot of people get into franchises and they do think, and I'm seeing it right now where people just think they can set up a shop and let it go and they don't really have to do anything. So this is every franchise, right? We're seeing stores that are doing really great and we're seeing stores that are not doing so great. And when they're not doing so great, they're blaming everybody around them rather than figuring it out and reaching out and building relationships in their community. Luckily, I live in New Hope. My store is in New Hope. And so a lot of people know me, which is helpful, right?
Oh, yeah.
I have a connection here. I'm not a big guy coming in thinking he's going to milk it here and not,
Right.
connected, right?
Right.
So that's been really helpful too, like getting involved in the schools, concessions. We did a hockey arena. We're at the pool this summer. So that visibility is going to help us propel us like in the future. And every year we can just keep building on to what we've already set in place.
Yeah, that's so interesting when you brought up that connection with community. And I think that that's the biggest thing, whether you're a franchisee or you're an entrepreneur in a different space, it's that like, know, and trust factor. And so, what big mistakes would you say people make when they get into a franchise? Because I would assume a lot of it is location based or how many franchises are allowed to be close to one another. So what would you say are the key components that make your success, and then the key components that would lead to it not being as successful?
I'm trying to think of like the main things that I have seen in the last like 6 months is being open. Location is huge. Sometimes I can't believe where people have chosen to put their store, where there is zero visibility, zero walking traffic. The fact that Minnesota people at least know the brand, but like if you're going into a completely new state and people have no idea what a nautical bowl is, if people can't even see you, they're gonna have to actually choose to go to your store, be like, hey, I want to go to Nautical Bowls today.
Mhm.
And 99.9% of people don't even know who you are or what you do. So I feel like that is the biggest mistake. And then just what I was touching on earlier, people really thinking that if they just set it up, that people will come, So I think you
Feel
have
that
to
they
like,
will come kind of idea from the movie, you know?
yeah, I think they just think maybe like if they're on Google or like Yelp, people will search for a smoothie or bowl and they'll be right over. And that's very true. Like that happens. Of course, people are searching for that. But if they don't even know your presence, I mean, you're going to have to build it up even on Google, like the amount of reviews and people commenting about pictures.
Mhm.
There's so much you have to do for people to be even aware that you exist. And then I think the other one has just been there's great people in this industry, but there's really petty and negative people as well. And I'm just get really disappointed when I see people blame the owners of the company for their mishaps. And really, like when they're mad that people aren't coming and they blame that on them. And they have given us the tools of what has been successful and what has driven traffic to their stores.
Mhm.
And it's like our job to work and implement that, right? And getting out. So, of course, I didn't sign up to be a franchise owner to go to do events. That's the last thing I want to do on weekends is do events because I
Mhm.
want to be with my family, right?
Yes.
But I mean, of course, we have kids that do it, but we have to go and set up these events. But the economy right now, like we just can't just sit back and expect that the doors will be flooded because people just don't have the money for extras, right? Because we're not a need.
To eat out versus spending money on groceries that you're consuming
Yes.
at home type of thing. Yeah,
So people that are really prioritizing their health and that's where their money wants to go, yes, they're going to
for
come to
sure.
us. But if
Mhm.
people aren't, they're not going to be doing that. They're going to make it at home. There's other options. You can't get sucked into the noise of this because there's people that are negative, there's positive. But if you get sucked into the negative, you're going to die. Your business is going to die because you get kind of pulled into it. That's probably like the Airbnb space. If you're not filling up, right? You're like constantly feeling defeated and then you get into that headspace and then you're going to fail, right? So you have to pull yourself out of it and be like, all right, what are we going to do to fix this? I kind of look at two at our bank accounts and I'm like, all right, I can't run out. Right. All of our businesses, I have to work this much harder to build up our profitability for
Mhm. Mhm.
everything. So
Yeah.
if I just kind of get to that place, I will literally become depressed and then I won't be paralyzed, which I see a lot of people do, and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
And then they're done within less than a year.
It's so easy to adopt this mentality of, well, I thought that this was supposed to work and now it's not working the way that I thought. So then it's not going to work at all. And there's nothing that I can do. And I think that sometimes people have this mindset that starting a business, whether it's an Airbnb or it's a Nautical Bowls, that it is easy, but it does take boots on the ground. It takes effort. It takes paying attention to competition. It's a business just like anything. And I think anymore people are wanting those quicker answers, those passive income
Yes.
sources. And I think unfortunately there's so many people that are out there that make it feel like, well, you should just be able to have endless passive income sources and it's so easy to make money. And the reality is that's just not true. Anything that's going to bring in income requires work.
Mhm. Yep. With social media, where we really think that these people that are making a lot of money and have big homes, it like just happened,
Mhm.
And so we think that for ourselves too. I've kind of realized that as well. Not that I believe that, but you're like, wow, this really does take nights, weekends, every little time in between the
Mhm.
kids' things. I have to constantly be working.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I signed up for this, but
Yeah.
that's what it takes to get to that point of having being financially free.
It takes a lot of sacrifices that I think people don't always see, and I think too, when we hear about other people's successes, what I'm realizing is that we hear from a lot of people at the successful phase because they're finally coming up for air, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's
Yes.
really hard to communicate your journey and what you're going through while you're in it because you don't have the time. That's
Mhm.
what I'm noticing is I would love to communicate more about some of the hardships and some of the sacrifices and some of the effort as we're going through scaling scaling this new aspect of our business, but I hardly have the time to focus on getting the business stood up, much less like communicate the realities of behind the scenes. And so I think what happens is then when you do finally come up for air, is things are a little bit more on solid ground. You have some good systems in place, a little
Right.
bit like where we're at with our Airbnbs. I think people have said to us, oh, you just scaled to this number of houses and here you are, and you're able to leave your jobs. And it's like, yes, but that took us 10 years. That took 10 years of very dedicated effort and time and money to get to that point. And like you, we're now figuring out how to scale and do our next thing and continue to push ourselves and have multiple income sources so that we aren't just relying on any one thing. But yeah,
Mhm.
I wouldn't even have the capability right now of actually portraying the reality behind that picture. And so then again, I think that that contributes to it too, is it's people on the other side that are able to then share because they have a little more time to do
Right.
that because they're after.
No, yeah, 100%. Because even right now, on top of this, I have a full-time job. So, I mean, I'm in the healthcare industry, health insurance. So I was
Okay.
opening a restaurant during open enrollment. Like, I was working till midnight every night last fall, and then something happened with our product, and so January, things weren't fixed. It was a nightmare. So I was literally up till midnight, no
Mhm.
lie, probably through January, mid-February, trying to figure this out, and that on top of everything else, a lot. But but I
Yeah.
can't really talk. I mean, it's I can't really talk to people about it unless, yeah, I'm past that point, and I don't know. It's a tough place to be, but I'm probably stronger than I ever have been before just
Mhm.
because of these really hard moments that I have dealt with. Now nothing really seems that difficult, but I'm
Mhm.
sure I'll still, I mean, there's still things to learn, of course, but
Yes.
these
Yes.
are all making us grow and become stronger and tougher, that you don't really sweat the small stuff, right?
Yeah. You learn where you need to expend your emotional energy and where you,
Right.
where you need to kind of quickly move on. This epiphany came to me the other day too. Do you ever feel like you can't complain about it or you can't talk about how hard it is sometimes? Because I feel a little bit like when you choose to work for yourself, there's this perception that you no longer understand the realities of what it's like to only have a certain amount of PTO or like be working for someone else or having to
Mhm.
climb the ladder. And so there's this perception of, well, how could you complain because you work for yourself? Do you ever struggle with that in your relationships or friendships or feeling like you can even be honest about some of the realities of it?
Yeah, I probably don't like to say stuff because I think people kind of automatically assume I'm rolling in the money because I have all these things going on, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not." Like, I'm not at all. I have to work really hard to be where I'm at and to maintain. I wouldn't feel like bad talking to my family about this. I think sometimes people look at us like we are making money, a ton of money. I don't
Mhm.
know. And I think that's like why I feel like I can't talk to them about it because they probably think, oh, like you're fine. Why are you complaining about this? Because they think we're at a certain place. But I'm like, no, we have another probably 5 to 8 years that we're building towards because I kind of have goals in my head. Like early 40s, mid 40s is when I kind of want to retire. Not retire,
Mhm.
but have like a part time thing where I'm managing everything from
Yes.
the side kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I don't talk to really anybody about it. I mean, I have a really strong marriage, but that's tough when we're constantly just having to talk to each other about all of these things rather than being able to talk to others outside of our circle, right? I don't think they want to hear about it. And also, too, it's hard to find other couples that are like minded that are in the same stage. So you might deal with that too, where we have a really hard time because we have no friends that are really wanting to do something like this.
Yeah.
So, like, they have nothing in common with us. If you want to even talk about it, they don't want to hear it because they really have nothing to provide to the conversation.
Mhm.
They don't have the same drive, and that's okay if they don't want to have their life be this way. But I know we struggle with that big time. Is that nobody can relate to us
Mhm.
with any of our story because it's so different.
Yeah. My husband grew up here, so a lot of his friendships are so core to
Mhm.
his being because they've been around for forever that there's a pretty strong basis to the friendships that we have here that I think we've all navigated adulthood in our own ways and we're still able to find those common pieces that keep us together. But it can feel very isolating because you're working for yourself, you're working with your spouse, you're working toward your goals, but you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have this built-in community of people that are all pushing and working toward the same thing. Like I compare it to teaching a lot because we taught within teams of people, the seventh grade team. So it was the math teacher and the language arts teacher, and we'd meet often, but we were all ultimately pushing toward the same thing, right? To have
Mhm.
our students be learners and work for great administrators. But yeah, when you don't have that common thread within a community anymore, it can feel very different. And like it's hard to describe to somebody what that feels like to constantly be working for your own goals in isolation and not
Mhm.
necessarily have someone else who gets that and understands the time component too
Right.
that it takes to do that, to build that, to have hopefully what we do have in 10 years, 15 years, whatever for ourselves in
Mhm.
early retirement.
For sure.
So tell me, with managing the different components, how do you structure that with a spouse? Do each of you have your own independent roles? I know Ben and I are very, this is kind of your path in the business. This is kind of my path. We cross, we share ideas, we share visions. But how do you manage that between the two of you and having kids on top of it?
So I'm trying to think of like with the mattress business, I get the people that are buying, right? So I'm posting. He's the one that actually goes, does pickups and meets people for sales. So we came back from Korea, it was 2021. He became an RN. He did that for about a year. And then we just realized we just can't do all this anymore. So he stopped being an RN and he decided to go mattresses full time. Like I said, he likes to be told just exactly what to do. Vanessa, give me my list. So every night before I go to bed, I text him a list of exactly what his day is going to be by the hour.
Oh,
So
wow, that's awesome.
yeah, but it's like that's the only way he can like that's how he functions, right?
Mhm.
And so he gets that and then he is basically full-time busy with that Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday we try not to have so much just so we can have more family time. But we do have mostly our evenings free. So when the kids are home, we are involved with all of their sports still or everything because we are able to, schedule mattresses around all of those things. When it comes to our Airbnb, that's something that I completely manage. So he's the one though with that. He went up there and he like set it up, right? And
Oh,
he's
okay.
the one that does like all the maintenance. He kind of does more of like the big stuff and I'm more the detailed. So I went up after when we were going to open it and made sure all the little things were there, right? All the supplies and stuff in the kitchen, that kind of thing. For our nautical bowls, that's primarily me as well. So he will help me. We try not to be there because that's the goal is to have people work so we don't have to run there. So we have a great manager. She manages it, but she's part-time because A, she's a mom, so she can't be full-time. And also two, we really can't afford a full-time GM right now. She does, all the scheduling, payroll, inventory, and then I kind of oversee her. Your margins are very slim in the food realm. So I'm just making sure labor, everything is looking the way it's supposed to be. I manage that piece as well. Jeremy is just there to run in if we need to have an extra person to help. I do too sometimes, but usually I'm just busy with other things or with the kids. But that probably happens like once a month where they need help, or we can look at the cameras or look at the sales to see if they're experiencing like high volume. And if
Mm.
we see that they're behind, we'll have somebody run in, which helps being a mile away. When it's your business, it's your baby, and you want everybody's being taken care of. So I handle that as well. So I basically oversee the three of them. And then if there's something that he needs to do within that, I just put that a part of his day-to-day list. Yeah, he's really great. And we're a team in every aspect. Of course, we have our moments that we struggle. I'll be like, can you go do this? And he's like, he's so exhausted from mattresses all day, or like in the evenings if we have to run into the shop. But it's just what we signed up for. And we have to keep looking to what we're building into the future. Because it's hard because we're not getting paid yet. We're not making any money from that right now. We're just like reinvesting because that's another big mistake by franchisors. What they do is they open a franchise, they quit their job, they set themselves up in store, and they're just waiting for people to come, and nobody's coming. And so they're paying themselves, and that's another quick way to die, right?
Mhm.
You need to be out of the store. You need to be like getting people to come into the doors. I oversee it all. And I think managing it with our family, and I have that full-time job too. So I can be flexible though in every space. Even my job, they know what I do and they're super supportive. I get my job done, right? So they have no complaints there. They know I'm a workhorse and like my reputation is super important to me and I'm going to get my job done. So
Mhm.
they are like so on board with Nautical Bowls. They like order it for work things. I
Wow.
was so worried about telling them about it because even though I have a manager that manages the shop, I still felt like it's kind of that old set mentality, right? That like back in the day when that older generation that thinks you should be stuck in your office cube 9 to 5 and you can't do anything else. But now everybody has a side hustle and everybody's working towards the same thing.
Mhm.
That the VP of sales found out that I was doing nautical bowls and he was like so excited for me. And normally I'd be like so worried about somebody hearing about that because I kind of want to keep it to myself. But he really wanted to hear about it and was super excited about what I was doing. That made me just feel really good about where I work too, right?
Yeah.
So that they are fully on board and they want to see me be successful.
And I would think too, and I've never been on that side, the owner of a company or anything that has employees that are working multiple jobs and how that
Mhm.
might feel. But in some ways, oddly enough, it may take the pressure off of you as an owner because you have people who are, as long as they're doing their jobs
Right.
properly, they're
Mhm.
doing what they need to earn the income that they need to slash want to for their families
Mhm.
without it constantly being this going to this one owner at my one job and it's like everything is banking on this. So either this works for me or if it
Right.
doesn't, I'm going to go elsewhere. And the whole hiring process, as I'm sure you know,
Mhm.
it's expensive to
Yes.
spend that time and find the right employees and the turnover and all the things. And so I would think in some ways it's the beauty of side hustles is that you can have these employees that are getting the best of both worlds, although it's exhausting at the same time for them.
No, definitely.
How do you keep yourself up with trends? Like, are you listening to podcasts? Are you reading books? Are you reading articles? Are you just talking with other people in industries? How do you track that?
I honestly don't have time to really do reading or probably listening to podcasts. I
Mhm.
wish I could, but I
Yeah.
think for me right now, it's just really listening to people that are in the field. So I'm really like all the nautical boat owners that are successful, that are the people that I'm looking up to and matching exactly what they're doing because I know we can get to that point. And the ones that are successful have been doing it for 3 years, at least 3 years. So I have to look at them and I'm still under a year. It's going to take time to get to that point. So I really am just trying to model. And then, two, I read articles and that. So I'm kind of looking into other franchises that are similar to Nautical Bowls, like Smoothie or Acai Bowl Shop. There was another acai bowl shop that tried to make its way into Minneapolis. They were at 2 locations and they didn't survive. And what we're experiencing with that one was kind of what Nautical Bowls is experiencing in other states because people don't know who you are. And then there isn't money for marketing. You don't have like the kind of marketing money for those areas because it's super expensive to market. So you have to kind of get creative in that aspect. I feel like my education is just like looking at the field and gaining what I can now from them. When I have more time, I don't even know when that is going to be, but I would like to do more, even like talk to more people in the space. But oh man, time is so hard right now because we're gonna adopt again. So
Oh, you are? Well,
we
congratulations on
are.
that.
So I literally have that hanging over my head too right now. I put my deposit in a year ago and I haven't moved since then because my opening the restaurant, my job, everything.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get that done before open enrollment starts again in the fall and when I'm going to be
Okay,
busy again.
okay.
So I'm just really trying to just be smart about every little thing that I do, especially when it comes to the
Mhm.
restaurant and spending money. And this is like horrible, but I haven't even dug deep into my numbers yet. I'm just being very careful about how I spend, how we schedule people, and then I can hopefully maybe give it to somebody to like really analyze my business more.
Yeah.
But right now we're okay. But I think I just need to get through some things to get to that point. It's hard to even say when that'll happen because I feel like things just keep happening and I just am staying busy. But I just keep telling myself these are like little seasons and you just got to keep pushing through because when you push through, there's so much good things on the other side, right? I can't quit in any of these things because I have to look ahead and see everything's going to pass, but
Mhm.
all this work is going to be fruitful once I get beyond this point.
Yeah, I don't know how much Alex Hermosi comes across your Instagram feed, but I think because I'm in the entrepreneur space, I hear a lot from him, and he's big on trying to inspire entrepreneurs to keep pushing through. That really 90% of people will give up just before things are going to turn, just before things are going to become successful or that traction is going to be gained. And so his big thing is if you can have the perseverance to keep just looking forward and setting goals and pivoting and learning that you will get there and that the most successful businesses are always the ones that just push just a little longer than all the
Right.
other ones. But you're right, that mentality can be hard and exhausting because you don't have the time to look at some of the finer details. And I think sometimes pausing to look at those finer details can send you into analysis paralysis. That's a little bit of what I've learned too is like, yes, it's great to sit and analyze, but now that just increased my task list by like 20 more things that I feel
Mhm.
like I need to do. And then that can put you into a paralysis paralysis rather than just taking it day by day. And this is what I can do today. And this
Right.
is what I can do tomorrow. And that's as far ahead as I can look.
If I would have probably analyzed a lot of the things that I have gotten into, I probably wouldn't have done them. It has scared me off. I have a lot of friends too that they want to start something, but they start analyzing it down to the bare bones and it freaks them out, right? And then they decide not to go into it. I think that holds a lot of people back.
Definitely does. There are two more really specific questions that I want to ask you. So, what is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur as it relates to being a mom? And what does that look like for you? Are your kids in school? Are they still going to daycare?
Yeah, I think I want to be the best model that I can be for my kids, and I want them to really work hard. I think that's especially now with like the generation that I'm seeing coming in, they don't really want to work very hard, right? At least Gen Z. That's what I've been noticing from my crew. I told these kids in the fall, like, if you guys stick with us in the summer, we're going to really be careful with how we hire in the summer because I want you guys to have the jobs because you stuck with us through the winter. And nobody really wants to work. They want to work like 1 or 2 shifts a week. And I remember being in high school and wanting to work a lot. Like I was saving. I had all these things that I wanted to get, but either their parents are giving them the money, I don't know, or they don't think they need that much to survive. But this is their time to make money. So that's what I thought was going to happen, but it's not the case. So right now, I just really want to instill hard work into them because it comes into every facet of their life, like going through college. Like if they decide college, right? I mean, I'm kind of open to whatever they want to choose, but I just really want them to work hard for whatever they want in life. I think right now it's hard. I have a lot of mom guilt because I am busy all the time. I have a hard time organizing all these things. I'm on my phone a lot. I have to be me, this is more my problem, but I can't stop thinking. Like I'm always thinking about every business, like what's going on, how I can make things better. So I do have mom guilt there, but at the end of the day, I'm there for them all the time when they're home, or I go to all their sports games. Even though I feel bad, I'm hoping that like what I'm doing, they see that I am working hard for them because I want to not only teach them what hard work is, but I want them to be set up as well, right, in the future. I'm not handing them over everything, right? But at least leaving them with probably a nice inheritance.
Yeah.
But you want to leave a legacy, right? And like that's my family that I've built. Who knows what they want to do? But if they want to be a part of our business, I would love to see that. I can't wait till my oldest son can pick up a mattress. Trust me, can't wait. Or meet somebody to sell one. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Nautical Bowls too. They're not too far off from that. So hopefully once they start getting in there and working with us, they can really appreciate it even more. Right now, they don't even want to be kind of involved. I think they're tired of it, tired to go to the warehouse or tired to go to Nautical Bowls. But hopefully when they get a little bit older, they'll take more ownership and they'll want to be a part of it. Especially like Ezzy, like this is what kind of started everything, So he'll appreciate, he's only 5 now.
Yeah.
He'll be appreciated. We always
Yeah.
joke when we're at the warehouse with the mattresses. We're like, this is your future. Like, you could have all these mattresses. And they just don't think that's very funny. But
Well, I hope the mattress thing goes for a lot longer because I certainly rely on your business a ton. So
yeah, it will. That's our bread and butter. I think I never would have thought that people would buy used mattresses, but that quickly changed because everything is so expensive, especially when it comes to mattresses.
So if you were, and I mean, maybe this is starting a whole thing that you don't even want to go down that road yet, but if you were to start another business tomorrow,
Oh
what do
my
you
God.
think you would even be interested in trying?
I don't know if I would do a whole brand new business. I would probably try to just focus on what I already have and making that bigger. Like being in the franchise space, like I could see myself maybe buying another franchise that isn't doing very well in the nautical bowl space and then
Okay.
kind of growing my footprint there. Or I have thought about getting more into real estate, either getting another Airbnb or like a long-term rental. I pay almost $4,000 a month for my warehouse. And so there's also the need to buy my own commercial real estate building because I'm like, well, I'd rather own something than have to be constantly spending that kind of money. So even next spring, my lease is up. I know this is just part of business, but I'm like, how can I figure this out? Or can I maybe get a plot of land not too far out from the cities and build a big pole barn, you know? Or even have a house. And there was like a small house that I could just rent out and then have this big pole barn and like set up kind of my own warehouse space there. So I would actually like to fix that problem sooner than later and then maybe get more into real estate or expanding nautical bowls. But I think nautical bowls is the last thing just because we really want to get our store to be really profitable first. And maybe if that really is bringing in a good chunk of change a year, that could just be left alone. And if I don't want to work hard and building up another store up, right?
Mhm.
So I think right now our focus is really just trying to figure out to make things better within our current businesses, especially the mattresses, because we feel like how many mattresses you have to sell, right? It puts the pressure on us because that is Jeremy's full-time job. It's a lot. It's helping us a lot in all these avenues, but we got to make it better so it's more
Mhm.
profitable.
And that's the reality too with entrepreneurship is that you really do, you have to spend money to make money or to save money. And that's just a reality. And I think that that's the big thing with real estate that a lot of people underestimate is like, yes, you can pay rent. Yes, to some level that feels safer because you just have a lease. You can get out of it at the end of the year versus owning this building or owning this space. But you've been doing the mattress thing long enough now that you know what that business can do. And I think that there would be some security in that, then investing in that next step of like, okay, we can have our own space that
Mhm.
will grow over time and make us money in the long term. It's an asset that we can sell. And
But then it's just kind of figuring out where is that money going to come from
yeah,
to
yeah,
execute it,
yeah,
right? But then even like commercial, I mean, you're talking about 500,000 to 1,000,000. And
yeah.
like, obviously I don't have a down payment for that right now.
Mhm.
So that's the hope is, okay, we need to get Nautical Bowls up and running. And everything we're doing is just keep saving, saving, saving to eventually keep reinvesting until they can all support themselves and just support us long term
Yep.
going forward. So
Yep. And I appreciate your frugal attitude as well. I am very much the same. I have a hard time spending new on anything. For our kiddo, we're at Once Upon a Child for all the
Mhm.
clothes, all the shoes, all the things. Like I save
Mhm.
my dollars where I can so that we can spend where it matters and on stuff that
Yeah.
will return back to us.
100%. Like I said, that doesn't bring me happiness. Maybe that brings other people happiness, but all this stuff, it's like that's not bringing me to my goal at all.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to talk with
Yeah.
another entrepreneur. I really loved our conversation today because there's so many things that you said that resonated for me and it can really be motivating to hear from someone else and to continue to go in my own journey as well.
No, I appreciate it too because like I said, I really can't open up to anybody outside of my four walls. And even
Mhm.
my parents are supportive, my family is, but they can't relate. So it's hard to open up. So, no, I appreciate this time too. No, it's been
Yeah.
great.
Thanks for wandering with me today. If you were inspired by this episode and think it would ignite a spark in a friend, don't hesitate to share. And if you're craving more from the Wander Mode community, hop on over to Instagram at Wander Mode Co. Meet you in the next episode, and until then, wander on.